Alright, so in response to my opponent's claim that government-funded institutions should be allowed the use of funds for the cloning of human organs, my claim is that these institutions should not receive funds to substantiate the cloning of human organs. It's true that cloning has the potential to be medically beneficial, but at the same time, they're more commonly associated with the health risk of the mutation of human genes, which could pose a serious threat to non-human recipients of these cloned organs. Cloning human organs would require a scientist to extract stem cells from an adult patient to ensure that the organ is fully developed, and then wait for it to develop into the desired organ. If the organ were to be used in an adolescent's body, for example, it would have to live with a continually aging organ inside of it, which could cause confusion in the body, and the organ will most likely cease to function earlier than desired. In addition, the process of cloning and developing these organs will take a fairly significant amount of time, which will result in the suffering patient not being treated in time. Also, my opponent uses phrases such as "could be produced" and "may be possible," which is insinuating that even if this technology were to be funded and put into effect, we are still unaware of the harm that this can cause to a person's body over time, as this has not been tested. In response to my opponent's claim that cloning of human organs could be a solution to infertility and guaranteeing health of the new child, the one piece of evidence that they offer only refers to how current solutions to infertility are relatively unsuccessful, which does not explain or support their claim on how the cloning of human organs would necessarily fix the problem. But to address how cloning would affect infertility, I will refer to a quote from CBS News, which states that clone would suffer psychologically because it would know in great detail many things about its life. It would know pretty much what it would look like, what kind of genetic diseases it would suffer, and maybe its intellectual capabilities. On top of this, it's highly probable that the clone would face a significant level of discrimination due to its unnatural existence. So in the end, this would be very unfair to the clone child, to say the least. As a response to her claim that cloning will eliminate the shortage of organs and ultimately extend life expectancy, my opponent's sources are inadequate in that they only describe how there's a shortage of organ donors and not how cloning would effectively solve this problem. She also seems to be referring to reproductive cloning rather than the topic, which is about therapeutic/organ cloning. But in reference to the issue, what they don't consider is how cost-effective paying for these cloned organs would be for the average person. For example, it costs $5 million to clone a sheep, which is a simple organism, but a more complex organism such as a human will cost around 10 times as much, which is $50 million. So to pay for this service would be something that most people could not even dream to afford. And if this service were to be federally funded, our country would be forced into way more debt that it's in right now for something that only the rich would be able to afford. Also, in response to her claim that the policy that President Clinton set in 1997 prevents the development of a solution to the lack of viable organs for transplant and also the development of new technologies, coming from the same source that they used to back up their claim, the American Medical Association states that because of experience with animal clones, it is reasonable to conclude that future human cloning experiments will have the same high failure rates. So President Clinton's reasoning for enacting a policy which prevents human organ cloning is highly reasonable in this sense. For example, Dolly the sheep, the first cloned mammal, was considered a success story in animal cloning, but that was only after hundreds of embryos were destroyed in the process, and after all that, it died within 6 years of lung disease. So since humans are structurally and internally more complicated, the odds of developing successful clones are very slim. Also, the same source they used, American Medical Association, states that the moratorium, which is supported by the American Medical Association, suggests that no federal funds be allocated for human cloning. So to use this source in order to support federal funding of the cloning of human organs is inadequate, to say the least. same source is used throughout my opponent's entire claim. Therefore, their supporting information contradicts their beliefs on the subject of cloning. As a response to their claim that previous experience with cloning resulted in successful production of new individuals, they say that in 2007, scientists cloned monkey embryos for the purpose of extracting stem cells, but removing the cells will ultimately destroy the embryo. This is close to murder, as the subject does not live after the cloning process is completed. If human cloning were to follow the same trend, this would more than likely devalue human lives and cause a lot of uproar amongst society in general. So saying that previous experiences with cloning has been successful is an issue. Also, their use of the sheep as an example is problematic as well, because hundreds of embryos were destroyed in the process before it was born. So yes, it can be considered successful, but at the expense of numerous deaths. In addition, my opponent's last source doesn't support their claim that it only mentions science as a new hope for bringing back endangered species, and does not tie in with any successful production of new individuals.